Hey guys, welcome. And today we're going to be talking about the proper maintenance and care on our French horn. So, we're going to start with before we're ready to play. There's a couple things with brass instruments and French horns in particular that we need to do before we play, and a couple things we need to do after we play. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to oil our rotors, our keys. Okay? So all of you should have rotor oil. I prefer this kind. I'm going to come around and show you. I prefer this synthetic one that has a longer tube like this. It makes it easier for placing like one specific drop somewhere. They make some that look more like this kind of top, and that's okay too. Okay, but the one we have linked for you guys has this kind of longer pull, and that's the better kind for this.
Mr. Gullett, you said rotary oil. Would valve oil work the same?
Great question, Mr. Lopez. We do not want to use valve oil or slide cream. It has to say the word rotor oil, okay? And if you get the one that we linked for you on the website that says rotor oil, that's gonna be a really good one for you to use. But if you use a different kind, make sure it says rotor oil. And I actually, for rotor oil, do not like the ones that say valve oil and rotor oil, okay? Because it's not as good. So, on my French horn, I'm looking right by where the keys are. There's these, I'm not gonna show you, 3 screw caps. These 3 right here. And they actually unscrew. And remember, whenever we unscrew something, we wanna think lefty-loosey, that loosens it, and righty-tighty to tighten it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my one off at a time. I'm gonna start with the one closest to my mouthpiece. It's called my first key. Okay? So I'm gonna unscrew gently this cap. I'll go ahead and do this here. Unscrew the cap. I'm gonna set this cap down on the ground or the table that I'm using, okay? Now you're gonna see it looks a little bit different inside. All right? Take my towel. I'm gonna wipe down the inside because the old oil that's left over there, I don't want that anymore. I wanna start fresh. I'm gonna take my rotor oil, make sure my little top cap is off, and these are easy to lose, so don't set it somewhere that you're not gonna remember it. And I'm gonna place 1 drop on the inside of this cap, right? Where is it? There.
Mr. Gullett, what
One
if my
drop.
key is just not working? Should I put 3, 5 drops?
No, 1 drop is our maximum amount. If I put more, it's actually gonna move slower. It's gonna slow it down. So, I put my 1 drop, and you're doing this on the floor. I'm holding it so you can see it. I'm gonna tighten my cap back on. And then I'm gonna go ahead and press the key back and forth just a bunch of times to kind of work that oil into the key and the system there, okay? And then I'm gonna do that same thing with my second and my third key. I only take 1 cap off at a time. I don't wanna mix them up. They should be interchangeable, but sometimes, especially if the horn's a little older, 1 cap may have a little bit of a dent on it, and it might not go nicely on the other spot. So I've done my other 2, 1 drop on the center, and now I'm ready to grease my slides. All right, and actually, I think I left my cork grease in my last instrument. Where is the trumpet? So hang tight, I'm gonna grab a cork grease. And the cork grease, you guys, is gonna be kind of like chapstick. Wrong trumpet. And so your cork grease might look like a tube of chapstick, and it might look like one that you dip your finger in to put on your lips. So here's my cork grease, and I'm gonna pop the top off here, extend the grease out a little bit, and then find one of my slides. I'm gonna start with my main slide in the back here. There's 4 slides. And I don't have to do this one every single day, This one can happen once a week, but the oil every time I play it. I put a little bit on just in a little spot. I can take my finger and wipe it around and then slide it back in. Notice I'm not putting it all the way in. I'm leaving it just a little bit out. And when I put the grease on, I didn't take the slide all the way out. Okay, I just put it out a little bit.
Mr. Gullet, what's the best way to hold my horn so I can do that correctly?
Great question. Well, the best for us right now is going to be to set it on a table or on the ground. But you can also hold it by the bell or any part except for the keys. Don't hold it here. Holding it here is okay. Holding it here is okay. But not the keys and not by the mouthpiece because that comes out, right? All right, so I've gotten some grease on my slides. I've got rotor oil on my keys inside. And now I've practiced my instrument. I'm done for the day. Now I have to talk about how to pack this thing up and clean it correctly. The first thing is if I was hearing any gurgly sounds, and it's a good idea to check anyway, I have to, sometimes when I play, water condensation gets into the instrument from all the hot air I'm blowing into the instrument. So on the French horn, it's a little bit tricky. On all the other brass instruments, there's a button to release it. But on the French horn, I have to search. So I'm going to pull one slide out at a time. Start with this slide right here. Pull it out. I'm not going to let go of it. So I remember which way it goes back in. I'm going to onto a towel, dump it out. Nothing came out this time, but sometimes something might. I'm going to slide it back in the same way I took it out.
Mr. Gullet, does it matter how we kind of take out the spit? Is it okay if we kind of just throw it like down like Spider-Man or like?
Great question. We do not want our condensation to fly across the room. So we're not going to fling it. We're not going to go up to our little sibling and dump it on them. Gross. We're going to take it, put it nicely on a towel or into a bin or outside on the grass maybe. But we're going to put it somewhere where it's not going to get on anything else and slide it back in. And then I'll go to my next one. Pull that guy out. I have to remember which way does it go. I never let go so I don't forget. Okay? Empty. And it helps when you're doing these ones to push the key down as you go. And I would go through all my slides. Once I've finished, I'm going to want to clean some of this out. So I took my mouthpiece off. I'm setting the horn down back in the case. And the mouthpiece, Mr. Lopez, is this often a little more dirty than the horn?
It actually is because that's where the point of contact is. It's where you blow most of your air through.
Yeah, my mouth is sitting on this thing for the whole time I'm playing. So it's really important that we clean this out. And so we're going to use our Mouthpiece Brush. And this is the brush that was linked for you on our resource website, okay? And it's really important you get the right one because the wood ones have a brush too, but it's a lot bigger than yours, so it's not going to fit correctly or clean correctly. So I have my Mouthpiece Brush, and I want to be by a sink. We don't have a sink, so we filled a cup with water, and we have some Dawn dish soap. And that's going to be really good for cleaning the inside of the mouthpiece out.
Mr. Gullet, my mom uses Clorox to clean the dishes too. Is that okay to use?
Yeah, we don't want to use Clorox or bleach or anything with chemicals because we put those chemicals against our mouth when we play. Dawn dish soap is what we use to clean our dishes with at home, and this is safe for us to use as long as we rinse it off. But no Clorox, no bleach. It's also not good for the metal to be using that on here. Great question. So I take my mouthpiece. There's nothing about this that has anything that can be damaged in water, so I can stick the whole thing under the sink, or in my case, in the cup. I can put a little bit of dish soap in there, mix it around as well with my brush. If you're using a sink, make sure it's on a lower setting. We don't want to blast the mouthpiece with water and get it everywhere. So I stick the mouthpiece in the cup, get it nice and wet, get my brush, and my brush actually goes into the back part of the mouthpiece. It's called the shank. And it goes in, and I just twist and back and forth and just kind of scrubbing the inside. I don't want to go in this way. It won't really fit very well. I want to go in through the back and just really scrub it out nicely.
Mr. Gullet, do we try putting it all the way through and then pulling it out the other side?
No, we don't want to pull all the way through because it might get stuck in there and you're not able to pull it out. It's really stuck tight. So we want to only go part way through until it gets about to the end. and then scrub and pull it back. Once I'm done, I rinse my mouthpiece off. I dry it with my towel. And then the optional thing for, especially right now, we always use these with our school instruments, is to get a sanitizing spray. This is called Misty Mist, or Mighty Mist from Rocher Thomas. And we have a link for a smaller version that you can use at home. And this is just to sanitize it at the end. I just sprayed it around the mouthpiece, but a better way than that, I'm just so used to doing this, is to spray a towel, 2 sprays, then it doesn't get all over the house and on the chair and on the whatever else you're near. And then just wipe the inside nicely, and wipe the rim, and just kind of wipe all around. And this sanitizing spray is not going to damage the instrument. It's designed specifically for instruments and mouthpieces. And now my instrument's as clean as possible, my mouthpiece, and I'm ready to go ahead and put it back in the case. The very last thing we have to do, many of you guys have a cloth like this in your case. If you don't, we do have one linked, but it's just a standard felt kind of fabric cloth, kind of like a microfiber cloth, and we're just going to use this to get any, to wipe down the instrument. Mr. Lopez, why do we want to wipe down the instrument?
We want to make sure that we don't get any grease on the instrument from our hands, and because if it does get on there, it'll actually affect the lacquer and ruin the instrument. It'll ruin the metal of the instrument, and it's just not going to look pretty, right? It almost feels like when you get a hamburger from McDonald's, your hands are all greasy, and then you get on your phone, and then it looks disgusting. You wouldn't want your phone dirty. You don't want your instrument dirty.
Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and wipe down pretty gently. I don't have to push too hard. It does a good job. Just a little bit of pressure there as I wipe down. I'm just getting all parts of the horn, all surfaces. I don't want to miss the casings here for the rotors, the keys, but I'm not pushing so hard that I'm going to break anything on accident. And I'm going to do my best. If I don't get into every nook and cranny every single time on accident, that's okay. I'm just doing my best to get all the parts here. And once I've gotten all the parts, I'm ready to go ahead and place it back in the case. Remember, your case is on the floor, not on the table. I'm using the table to show you. I only have really a couple things to put back. I fold my cloth up. Many of your horn cases have a little slot somewhere. If they don't, a lot of times you can kind of stick it in under the horn there. And then I'm going to pack up my rotor oil and my grease. If I don't have a spot on my horn case for these items, it might be good to have a separate baggie that you keep with you. Some horn cases do not have slots for it. This one happens to have a really nice slot right here. But I don't want to just throw my grease and oil into the main part of the case and have it flying around. So I've got all my stuff packed in. I'm going to get my horn ready to close. It should have no pressure there. If it does, I got to check and see, did I leave something popping out? I push the tab down until I hear it click, until I hear it click. And that one didn't actually click right. And now it's ready to go. And oh, it's still open. That's why we do on the floor. There we go. Now we're good. All right. We're excited to start playing on our mouthpiece in our next episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.